Everyone, welcome to DM.Talks. I'm your host Sarah DM, and this is your podcast that aims to promote well-being and assist healing, whether that be physically, mentally or spiritually. Ultimately, we just want to be seen in our entirety, and this podcast hopes to show listeners how multifaceted they are. We're all the centre of our own universe, so why don't we do more to better our own existence? Hello everyone. I'm laughing because it's literally been the third time that I've tried to record. There's been recording glitches, I'm not pressing the video, there's been everything, but we're finally here and I'm so ready for it. Today is a really special episode because I'm joined by an artist, a content creator, an illustrator that I have been admiring since 2016. They're actually in the US at the moment. So this is a virtual, well, it's always virtual recordings, but this is more virtual because you're actually at Proceeds, I'm so excited to introduce to the virtual stage Evvie Marin.
Hey, so nice to be here. Thank you for having me. This is really a joy.
Honestly, I'm so happy that you're here, and I said it before in the previous times that I tried to introduce the show. You were such an integral part into my tarot journey, so literally just having a conversation with you, I'm just there oh my god, I'm getting a bit I'm fangirling a little bit because it's I literally had your posters in my room. I would color them, I would use them as spreads, I would do everything and all sorts, and it's just nice to talk to someone who was there, a part of my life, even though you didn't know me,
Yeah, thank you. And that's incredibly flattering to hear. And it's also just so nice to get that feedback. As an artist, a lot of times you feel like you're shouting into the void online. So it's just great to hear that people are really engaging with the spreads and things. And I love your podcast vibe. And I'm really all about peer-to-peer sharing. That I really think that's what it's all about. So it's just a joy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate it because I think that's something that I definitely see in your work. The collaboration process, the freedom of being a student process, the accessibility. I'm sure we'll go into it more in the episode, but I really like how it's fresh and insightful, but there's no judgment anywhere. It's more oh guys, we're all learning together, come on, oh, what about this? Oh, this could be interpreted this way, and it's bouncing off each other. And I just really appreciated that because I think sometimes when you learn about a subject or you learn about a form of spirituality, there's some form of the term holier than thou, sometimes you kind of get caught up in that mess, and it's hey guys, what's the need for this,
right. And who does it serve? I'm a little squirrely about the kind of capital T teacher thing, the kind of micro guru phenomena that we have, where I don't know. I joke, but it's true. I'm good at writing tarot spreads because I have a lot of problems. I don't want to pretend to be one of those holier than thou people or pure or anything like that. I think a lot of us, we're all in this boat together. We're all learning and growing together, and we're all trying to survive late capitalism together. Honestly, which yikes!
We're literally all in the trenches together, and it's look, we're literally across. You're in the US, I'm in the UK, but the way that I resonated with your spreads, and I'm sure so many people around the world resonated with your spreads because it was literally what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. What the actual fuck? It just, very surreal times, and a lot of people, a lot of beautiful people with a lot of gifts are hurting right now in very serious ways and afraid to share their gifts because they feel like they don't match what an authority is supposed to look like. And I would love to see that shattered. We just gotta build us through that.
What is an authority? What the authority? All the authority figures that we have around us are false images, and they're being so they're being held up by their ego, and that's why you see so many people in powerful positions but have such ugly characters, and it's sort of it's like a competition, and it's if you take away these people. And I'm not obviously trying to invalidate what others have gone through at the expense of these people, but if these people had an opportunity to actually reflect and nurture a state of themselves which didn't need that wasn't fueled by scarcity and greed, then I don't think we'd be in as much trouble as we are, you know.
Right.
I just feel like people with big egos get a lot of power and they do some horrible shit, and it's just like, we could have avoided it. We could have not got this bad, you know.
Yeah. It's really, it's just mind-boggling, the dynamics and how our power structures work in our societies, and just how, how is it possible for a small group of people with such disproportionate power to have that much sway over other people? And
honestly,
there's a lot going on there. And we do have to acknowledge that, especially like in the States, there is grassroots support for some really not good stuff, right? Like there's as much grassroots harm or I don't really like the word evil, but it's that kind of grassroots toxicity exists along with grassroots progress and goodness too, and it's complicated. But yeah, I would love to see a world with more reflection all around, less hierarchy.
Less hierarchy, and like you said before about this like sort of like guru, well, even like in spirituality, I think there's pleasure in horizontal, like a horizontal workforce where we can all like collaborate and work within each other and not be like looking up for the answers, but realizing that like if we just had a chat, we could even find the answers within ourselves, because it's like my perspective will push your perspective, will push another person's perspective, will push spirit's perspective, and then we'll end up like creating some great ideas, you know.
100%. Just like have that spirit of collaboration and humility, and be like, I have something to learn from everyone I meet.
No, it's honestly so true. Like, on that good note, I'm going to take you straight to the divine, right? And that's the first segment of DM Talks. So the divine is where you nominate a good thing. And for this week, I'm going to nominate an artist. They're actually also from the States. I'm not sure, or like you might know them. They're called Pink Cat Daily.
Oh, I don't know them. No.
So Pink Cat
Daily, I love the name.
Honestly, I'm obsessed with Pink Cat Daily. My actually, let me read a little bit out, because I actually just got the book. So Pink Cat is a character. They were created by Saba. And they say in the blurb, the pink cat character has been an experience. As a creative person, I've listened to the voices inside me and around me build the character. She did not exist in the world before I was drawing her, and my work over the years of my life has been to discover who she is, what she does, and what she looks like, and what is her purpose in all her lives. So Saba, she loved cats growing up. She's of Arab, Iranian, and Turkish descent, but she lives in the States. And honestly, I'm obsessed with her. So my friend went to California and was able to bring me back some stuff from her pop-up shop. And I got her book, which is like, there it is. Okay. So this book.
Oh, it's so cute.
It's absolutely massive. So I always try and show people things, and then I'm like, this is not the best background to show people things. But this book is basically a collection of the 4 years of her drawings, her illustrations. And Pink Cat has traveled around the world. It's reflected in this book. She's had some battles with like society. Is reflected in this book. She's had she showcases her love. She's got like 4 boyfriends. She shows it in this book. Like, there's so much of her character and her authenticity, and she basically draws an Instagram photo each day. So it's called Pink Cat Daily, and she just uploads a photo on Instagram, and she's been doing that for the past 4 years. She's amassed like a massive following, I think like 250k followers. Wow. And now she's introducing her collective to NFTs and Web3, and she's got an amazing Discord group that I'm a part of that's just teaching individuals who didn't really have that much representation of the tech world. And it's just really powerful, because like so many people that were sort of ignored, she's like, no, we're putting you in the forefront so that you can be a part of this digital revolution when it happens. And she's equipped me with so much knowledge, but she's also just an incredible illustrator. And this book, like, I absolutely love it. Like, it's just amazing. So she's also made a tarot deck, and some of the images are in this book, but I just love how she's able to incorporate her spiritual journey with just being a human, like with her human experience. Like, there's a picture of her holding there's a picture of her walking with her boyfriend, one of the blue cats, and the moon is looking at them being like, don't distract her, she's evolving, you know. And then even this one, it says, you always get tested most right before you progress to the next level. I don't want to upgrade you. I want to give you the time and space to upgrade yourself whilst I sit here loving you. Like, all of these messages are really affirming, but there's also messages of like, don't be a clout chaser, like, know your worth. Like, I'm not going to give you some message that's going to accommodate your like sensitivities. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And I really appreciate that, because so many people resonate with her work. She's honestly one of my favorite illustrators, and the fact that I've got her book in my hand and it's come from the US, I'm screaming about it. I also bought a print, but that's actually on my wall now, and it's to resemble Pink Cat Navy, because that's what her collective is called. And it's just amazing. I just love how like you, like her, art can heal, art can transform, art can connect so many people from around the world, and it can give people some like saving grace whilst they're experiencing hard times. So that would be my nomination for this week.
That is amazing. That sounds darling. I need to follow her, like,
honestly,
right away.
Incredible. I'm obsessed with her work, and I just like, I love illustrations. I love illustrators, and I think it inspires me to like create my own things. So yeah, that's my nomination. But what is your nomination for this week's Divine?
So I'm terrible at picking just one thing. So I have a tie, and I want to nominate a couple accounts. Social media is a mixed bag, and it can be kind of a drag sometimes when you go on there. And these two accounts always lift my spirits and just brighten my day and give me life every time I see them. So the first one is Alok Manon, who is one of my favorite non-binary activists in the States. They're based out of New York. They're just a beautiful, beautiful soul, beautiful spirit, amazing, colorful fashion sense. In some ways, this person is like the opposite of me in so many ways, because I'm very like gray and soft and mothy, and they're very like bright and loud and out there. And I'm kind of a cynic, and they're very into like hope and being hopeful. But they post the most amazing book reports. So and Alok has a big following, so a lot of you may have already heard of them. I hope you have. They were interviewed recently in JVN's Getting Curious show on Netflix. The episode with about non-binary gender is amazing, and you guys all have to check that out. Or you folks all have to check that out. But they post the most amazing book reports on Instagram about queer theory and queer history, and the connection between things like white supremacy and gender studies in the US, and just like that whole complicated history. There's just so much good information about the history of gender and expression and sexuality and things like that. Like a lot of those queer theory books are very academic and not always accessible for people. So it's amazing to have them summarized by somebody who's really smart, really poetic, it is living the experience themselves. So if you can't access that information directly, if maybe you don't have those titles circulating in your library system, or if you don't have the money to buy a bunch of academic books on queer theory, or if you don't have time to read them, because a lot of us, it's like that thing where you come out and you realize, like, I'm not qualified. I don't have the degree in this. So it's really cool to get that information. And then they also post just like beautiful poetry and amazing fashion. And so you got to follow them. I think it's at Alok Manon.
Amazing.
One of my absolute favorite Instagram accounts. Oh, I can send you the link.
Send me the links. Then I'll send you the links. Show notes. Did you put them on your story yesterday?
Yes. Yeah.
I think I saw. I think I actually went and read. It really insightful.
super insightful. Yeah, they're brilliant. And just like a font of good queer info.
Amazing. We love to see it.
And beautiful life and beautiful fashion. So yeah, they're one of my favorites. And then the other account, very different vibe, but Greedy Peasant is one of my favorite comedy accounts right now. They're just hilarious. It's this guy, also based in New York, who's like a costume fashion designer who just shreds making fun of medieval history. Is so funny. It's kind of hard to describe. It's like, but yeah, like queer medieval costume fashion theatery humor. I don't even know, that doesn't do it justice. Really, really offbeat, just deadpan, just funny stuff, and ridiculous artistic creations with illustration and fashion and design. So yeah, Greedy Peasant is one to check out too if you haven't yet. And I'll get you the links to both of those. They're just really fun and funny and brighten my day every time. So
because that's what social media is for, isn't it? It's like, I think people like, it's like a double-edged sword, isn't it? Like, social media has been criticized for impacting the perception that people hold for themselves, right? But then like going on Instagram and seeing a little tarot spread or a comedy message or like an art post that you relate to can literally lift your mood, and like you can make connections from that art post. You can be in the comments talking, like joking around with individuals with different interpretations. Like even yesterday when I was talking about Pink Cat in the Pink Cat on the Discord, the interpretations to her last illustration that she dropped were crazy. Like everyone was like giving their 2 pence, and I was just like, what? Like this is a whole nother like universe, you know? And I love that. Like there's people globally able to like relate to this one thing and make them feel less lonely for that little time, you know? Because it's like I think growing up, especially with this with my relationship with spirituality like enhancing over the past few years, like I always thought that I was alone, but then I realized I'm not alone at all. I'm never alone. And it's just, there's something about having reminders of it, you know, and those comedy experiences, the illustrations, it can make you feel so nourished in that moment. So I think that's such a lovely nomination for the Divine, and I'll definitely check them out because I was fully reading the first nomination that you mentioned. I was really into it.
So good. Like just so good. Wow, I really have to thank Alok for just expanding my worldview every time I read anything that they post. So
I think, are they also are they friends with Travis Alabanza?
Possibly. I'm not as familiar with Travis.
Travis Alabanza is a non-binary poet, theatre, like a non-binary poet, but also actor, and have done loads of things. They actually just went around. They went around England for JVN's tour. So I think they're like, I think they know of each other.
Yeah, they probably would then. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've seen a lot like in some like things, but I haven't seen. It was the first time when I saw all those reflections of the history that you shared on Instagram, and I really enjoyed it because you don't realize how much queer history is. How much certain systems influenced queer history. Like it's very diluted, and like I think that's another thing that that we have to experience when we unfortunately live in marginalized communities. It's like we have to search for our history, you know, we have to do this independent looking for our history. Like that's fine to a degree, but I'm sorry, but I should be learning about this on a bit of a larger scale, or I should be aware of it so I can like, again, not feel as lonely, you know?
Yeah. One of the things that's really shocking about it when you start looking at it too is just how much especially in the queer community, how much culture has been built and then lost, and then built and then lost. Like it's this cyclical thing, and how a lot of people are uncomfortable with how fast queer language changes these days. And it's like, well, we're constantly reinventing language because we had language, but it was razed. And then we have to start over. And, it's this constant thing of like building and rebuilding culture. And it's just amazing to look at the changes and also the resonances in history and see, how people were doing things in different times. And we've always been here. We've always been here.
Exactly. We've always been here, and like
we're a natural bearing.
And I love that because it just shows you, like, I think, especially because there's so many disparities across the US and the UK. And like, I did an episode recently called No Hetero, where I talked with my friend about queer history in Britain, but also this idea of language and how our language is so limited that we sort of projected our own speech onto said communities who are just existing. And like, it's not fair for us to project the language onto them, but then also because the English language, or Britain in any way, that we just wanted to categorize, we wanted to label, we wanted to refine. But that's the beauty of queerness. It's like, we're fluid, baby. We're fluid and authentic, and we will not sit still. Do you know what I
mean? Right.
Oh my goodness, it made me laugh so much. No, but that's that was such a lovely nomination. But I guess that kind of like brings me to Decoding the Messes, and which is our next segment of the podcast. Decoding the Messes is where we unpack something that we consider mess, whether that be online or offline. And I think we talked a little bit about it just in the Divine, with the terms of like language and restrictions. But I guess like one of my first questions for you is, how do you remain true to yourself when there's so much noise outside?
Oh gosh, that's such a good question.
Sorry, it was a biggie, wasn't it? I should have entered with like a little one and then a biggie.
Oh, that's fine. It's a great question. I just need a pause moment to think. Okay, so can you repeat it, because that'll help me.
Sure
that'll
thing.
help me brain it.
I'm just moving my leg.
And
if you ever see me look down, it's just because I've got some notes on my phone as well.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
How do you remain true to yourself? And I don't even remember the question. Sorry. How do you remain true to yourself when the outside is too noisy?
Okay, so for me, it's definitely been a process, and I think it really goes to there's a process that I think about within my art that I call excavating the voice. And it's really just an ongoing thing of just peeling back those layers of, what of myself did I form as a survival mechanism to appeal to other people, or to mask parts of myself that I felt like I couldn't express, or were too messy or too much for people. And then there's just those deeper truths in you that you feel like you're going to boil in your skin if they don't come out and get expression. But it's a very slow, it's a very gradual process to get that balance and to do that. And I feel like it's something that's never really ever finished. I'm still exploring my own mysteries. I think, as I think we all are. I don't think anybody has full access to the entirety of their soul or their spirit while they're enjoying a life. And there are always, especially for people who grow up without language for ourselves, there are always so many layers of things that you discover as you get older. So yeah, it's definitely still a thing that's in the works. And there are aspects of it where just like, I can't not be, degrees of weird that I am. There are things about your personality that you can't turn off, and they're going to express no matter what. So you got to figure out how to work with them. But art really is a big help for me, in figuring out and refining my expressions. Consuming art too, like, tracking your input, being conscious about what you're taking in, and doing things like mood boards. I love Pinterest. I'm like a huge Pinterest person. And there are times when I'll just like kind of go on these Pinterest binges of like, I'm feeling disconnected from myself. I'm forgetting who I am and what I like. Like, I'm just gonna, find all the stuff and gather and collect and put it all on one board, and then I can see it, and kind of externalizing your brain like that, and externalizing your So yeah, I think art and aesthetics can really be a huge help for self-exploration and self-development, especially when your craft of self has to be a kind of creative and adaptive process around things like queering or chronic illness is a big part of my story too. Figuring out those kinds of things in a society that's not structured to educate you about yourself in your formative years.
Yeah, it's wild how even as you're talking, like you like triggered flashbulb moments in me, because I'm just like, that makes sense, and even like especially like you said something about like still learning sorry, I can't speak. Still learning about different parts of yourself, as you grow. And like, we don't have we have mysteries to learn. And I love that, because it's so true. I think if people meet me, they might, like, I'm a confident person, but I'm also a very awkward and weird person at times. And I think that like, it just shows you how like nothing is as it meets the eye. Like, there's a lot of processing and development that has come into my character, but it's also made me have like this like beginner's mind, and I'm like very interested by people and their things and their stories and how interactions work and how things develop. And I think especially like I grew up in like a predominantly white area in England. And because my experience wasn't like most Black people's experience in this country, it's given me an insight like no other, but also is a conflict, because it's like, I know that I benefited greatly from said experiences, but then also I know that those experiences weren't too good at all. So like, I think even that insight, it's weird. It's like I have a conflict, but also a reflection that is very, very open and willing, and it's not coming from a place of like I don't know, I just guess it's not coming from a place of like fear anymore, but it's coming from a place of wonder. And I think that's one thing that I definitely recognize in your work. Like, you have so many like inspirations from folklore and mysticism, and sort of like, I don't know how to explain it, but like your artwork, it looks quite old, as in like there's sort of like it's very textured. It's very like Victorian, but it's also not, like there's so many, there's so much to it. I guess my next question is for you, like, how did you lead to that inspiration?
Yeah. So that's such a good question. I love geeking out about art history. So I've always had slightly antiquated aesthetics, and like I was like a weird awkward kid growing up, and I kind of socialized myself reading Gothic novels instead of like hanging out at the mall and listening to the Spice Girls, which would have been a more normal path. I was listening to like Radiohead and Alanis Morissette and Eleanor McAvoy and reading Anne Rice and stuff when I was like a child. So part of it is just like having a lot of like historical and antiquated and vintagey influences just from a really young formative age. I've just always like skewed a little bit that way. And then as an art student, I really gravitated towards like the golden age illustrators, and Aubrey Beardsley is a huge influence for me. I love Pamela Coleman Smith, the original Smith-Waite deck designer, was a big visual influence. I've looked at a lot of like people like Kay Nielsen and Arthur Rackham and things like that. A lot of old actual natural history illustrations. So those are the things that I like, and I kind of really ended up, you soak up inspiration from all these different sources, and they become a part of your hands. And I do have to say, I had really varied visual influences as like an art student. I studied set design, so the whole thing there is that you're supposed to be able to mimic any style like on a dime, on command. So we'd be looking at all kinds of different periods in history and different styles, and be able to reproduce them. And I had a little bit of a hard time actually getting my hand to look cohesive as an illustrator outside that context when I stopped working in theater. So yeah, but I would just be in college and wandering around the art library, and I always drifted to like William Morris and the Glasgow School, and Paul Klee for his color palettes. I love Klee's color palettes. A lot of 20s and 30s influences too, like Tamara de Lempicka and Charles Sheeler, and just a lot of the stuff that I soaked up formatively had that kind of throwback quality. Over the last year, I also discovered, I gotta shout him out. I've been talking about him incessantly. My biggest art crush of the years, Irish stained glass designer Harry Clark. And I somehow I missed him in the rotation when I was looking at all these other Victorian artists and illustrators, and had just like this major kind of eureka, where have you been all my life moment.
Yes, I love that
when I found his work this year. So he's become a major influence in a fairly short period, like over the span of the last year too. But yeah, it's a lot of the stuff that I'm drawn to, a lot of the art that just kind of spoke to me most earliest and most naturally was that really detailed, really antiquated, slightly creepy.
I love it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I absolutely love it. Like I mentioned this recently at the start of the show, but listeners, so in I'm gonna do a little memory like throwback. So in 2016, when I first started my tarot journey, I bought my tarot deck and I wanted to learn more about tarot. And then I came across this blog post by yours truly, and it was about the 8 I think it was 8 useful tarot spreads. And I'm going to read a little bit out of what it said, because honestly, you pulled me in from the first sentence. So it was like, we all have work to do. The year is, it must have not been 2016. I started tarot in 2018. So let me rephrase that. So this is the blog post. It says, we all have work to do. The year is 2017. The worst of the isms, fascism, nationalism, racism, sexism, and the myriad of and other phobias and bigotries are trending globally. The worst of our collective histories and tendencies have come out of the woodwork into the open, and they're parting like it's a goddamn track and field day. The resistance is also trending too. And I love that, because like I think a lot of people like may turn to different therapies, whether it's holistic, whether it's actual therapy, whether it's gardening, whatever, when they're going through like a tough time. And I think it was definitely like divine intention that I found your work as soon, like when I was learning about tarot, but also when I was coming out of quite like a shadowy, like dark period. Because I think throughout my life, I've been hyper vigilant processor, and I'm constantly like processing. But I was in a space where people don't want to acknowledge the things that are around to be processed. So it felt very like I felt very isolated. But when you were saying all these isms, I was like, you get it. Like you actually get it, because it's a complex structure of all these problems influencing certain individuals. And if you don't understand that people are living in these intersections, then I don't know what to tell you. And like I think that's why I really, really resonated with your work as well, because I think you talk about like even queerness, like the way that you celebrate queerness, but in a soft and like fruitful and just like a calming way, is something that I've never seen before. And it's something that isn't, well, maybe I'm not looking everywhere, but like it was one of the first interactions where I saw queerness depicted in tarot spreads with this gentle like soft perception, and not like, oh, not everyday partying. Do you know what I mean? Like not every day, like, oh, let me do this, let me showcase my front, but like I'm queer and I'm cute, like I'm chill, you know? And I think like having that mixture of different emotions and sensations, but displayed in the blog post, was really, really helpful. So what was your thought process behind? Oh, I don't think I even finished actually. So after I found these spreads, I would use them religiously. You can use these spreads to like color it in. Like I was doing the self-love spread, the what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this spread? And there was another arrow spread. You know the balancing arrow
Oh
thing?
yeah, the emotional arrow. Yeah,
Yes.
with the
And
target. Yeah.
that was honestly, that spread made me unpack so much information because like I actually did psychology at uni. So like
Awesome.
I did psychology and then I learned tarot in my last year, and I was able to appreciate the physical and the spiritual and mental combination. And I think that spread, the balancing arrow spread, really helped me to dissect what was the root of the issue, what's the core of the issue. And even so, even if I wasn't using the cards, I'd just end up coloring everything in. So like it was meditation in both ways.
Oh, that's awesome. That's like one of the loveliest things an artist could possibly hope to hear. I'm so appreciative and grateful that people have interacted with the material with that level of engagement. That's a joy.
Honestly, I just have to give you your flowers because it just shows you
Thank
how
you.
like something that you created with the intention to like showcase your work, but also to like help others really
Yeah.
resonated. But that's the thing, because another benefit of social media, I'm able to do this with you. I'm actually able to let you know
Right.
physically, whether it's through showing my support on a podcast, whether it's showing my support by mentioning your name to other friends, or even showing my support by going to your Patreon. You know, that there's so many different ways that we can celebrate each other's work. But before I get carried away with memory lane, with what was the inspiration behind the 8 tarot spreads or your
Sure.
PDF like experience?
Yeah, great question. So the it's funny, so much of the work, the projects that I've been doing on Interrobang Tarot, actually on the whole, are responses or growth out of traumatic stuff. So like I started the blog in 2015, like as something to do to just stay busy and kind of stay sane and have a tether to community, right after a major health collapse, that took me like a year to recover from. So like the blog itself was part of a recovery process. And the 8 useful tarot spreads, they started coming in right after the 2016 election, and it was really in response to the political climate that was going on in my country and the things that were happening. So I think like right after the election, I just got the what the fuck spread, like just came. That was just a very emotional just processing. And it ended up being in the 8 useful collection, kind of like the backbone of that collection eventually is what it grew into. But I just cobbled it together and threw it online just to vent, even. And I was shocked when it took off. got a ton of I have no idea how far that one's gone on social media. I've heard it circulated quite a bit. But it clicked with people. But it's just from that state of like, what actually the fuck? Like, what do we do? What do we do with this? And the 8 useful spreads collection kind of grew up around that. And then it took me a little while to illustrate, but it really came in response to the activism and being in a place where, like physically, I'm not able to go to protests. Like I have transportation issues, I have physical health issues where I don't want to be going to protests and be a person there who, like a white person who can't run. It's not, that's not my place to go do that and take space there when I know there's just a high likelihood that I would end up needing medical attention. I'm not gonna do that, but feeling just like what can we do besides vote, besides donate where we can, like what do I have to give here, and just feeling like, well, I can write tarot spreads. I love this craft. I've been practicing and playing with tarot pretty casually since I was a teenager, and just like this is what I know. This is what's in my own backyard. This is where I do have expertise and something to offer, and it helps me. So if it's useful for me, then maybe it'll be useful for another peer or for somebody else out there. So let's put it together. Let's throw it out there. there. And, the fancy part is to, try to get the illustration work out there. But it's really, it comes from a place of just wanting to share resources and just processing my own shit and recognizing like, okay, if I have something that works for me, it might speak to or work for another person. So yeah, really peer-to-peer sharing.
It's like, this is a commonality though that I've definitely seen in like, people like yourselves. It's that you're like healing out loud. Really is healing out loud and like showing your resources, sharing your resources in a collaborative effort which help you move through whatever we're going through. One thing that I do think also separates you from the rest of it is because your style is so unique, and because it's not something that I see that often. I think that's another reason why I was sort of like pulled towards it. And like, one thing that I like, I remember, so do you have 2 tarot spreads out now? No, not 2 tarot spreads. You've got 2 tarot decks. Yes.
Yeah. So I have 3 decks in the works, and they're all still in the works. Yeah, so I'm
sorry, I am waiting.
No, it's fine. I am waiting with bated breath for my ADHD evaluation, which is
my god, same
for bestie.
Snap.
All right.
Oh my god, we're not literally
right. Okay. I've been like slowly realizing over the past few years that like all my long-term friends are neurodivergent. Like every single one has gradually gotten either an ASC or an ADHD
literally. Like,
and I'm like the last one standing in my friend group who hasn't been evaluated yet. So when I'm great with short form projects. And when I start to get into long form stuff, they tangle up and they snowball and I go on tangents, and like each one big thing spawns another. So I somehow got myself into this tangle of where the decks are at, and they are going to be completed in time. But starting one deck somehow turned into 3, and there's 2 books in the works that go with them. So at the moment, I have the artwork completed for 2 out of the 3 decks, but they're not published yet because I'm waiting to finish the books. And the books are kicking my ass because I probably need meds to finish them.
Honestly, so thank you for sharing, because I think like that my last episode that I just recorded was called ADHD and Me, and my friend had been diagnosed,
I can't wait to listen.
And I haven't been diagnosed yet, and I'm just like, how the fuck have I been going through life without this shit? Like, what?
I know. I'm looking back at all this stuff. Like, I thrived in theater because everything's a crisis, like in every moment. And it's just like, go, 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 go. And you show up and you do different stuff. And it's a lot of pressure and a lot of wacky, zany people. Like it's an environment where it's so easy to mask and go under the radar if you're a little quirky. But yeah, adulting and trying to do my own work, serial stuff, I'm great if there's like a rolling basis commitment deadline. The Patreon's been thriving. We've got over 100 posts there. So like there's a lot of blogging. Thank you. Lot of short form serial content I can churn out. But the long projects are just kicking my butt. But they're going to be great. They are in development. The most involved, so like the really detailed deck that I'm like super excited about, that was the first one. It ended up turning into the other projects because I ran into joint pain problems with the medium, like pretty fast with it. I got like halfway through the major arcana and then had to stop because I couldn't draw in marker anymore. So it's been a process of years to redevelop my hand in brushed ink and watercolor instead. So that one, the Spirit Vertigo deck, is probably going to get redesigned completely at this point, because it might have to be majors only. And if it's majors only, then the characters have to change to, the representation has to shift to make sure that we're not doing stereotypes instead of archetypes. So that one's going to need a lot of work. But I've got a minimalist one and a symbolic one that the artwork is finished. I just got to get their guidebooks done because they are minimal. They're so minimal on the surface that they really need the text to make sense of them. And I want to release the books and the decks together. But I'm feeling okay about it. Like we're in a little pocket right now where conditions are, at the moment, not great for occult self-publishing. There's, the scam avalanche hitting Instagram.
Oh my goodness, literally.
Paper shortages, supply chain disruptions. Like it's just not, since COVID, it hasn't been like a great time to be trying to indie publish, big paper-based shipping projects that need to be shipped to people. So I'm feeling okay with kind of like taking a breather, figuring out my brain stuff so that I can complete the books. And I will say that I'm going to give myself little claps because I've got like over 90,000 words in the drafts pile. Like it's, the books are underway, but I had to I got that far into it and had to detangle them and realize that like none of it was book shaped and I don't know what I'm doing. And like, actually this is drafts for like 2 or 3 different books that don't work together. So now I have to, detangle them and, finish one at a time. And
I can imagine it being a lot of work, but also 90,000 words, that's a lot of stuff. Like you've got a lot done. So like that is a massive pat on the back.
Thank you. It is a lot of material. It's, it hurts my soul that it's this much completed material that nobody can see. I feel a little bit like, the guy being like, oh no, it exists.
But this one thing is I think this is a nice thing that also you can remind yourself of, like with the consistency that you've provided on Patreon and with the relationship that you've built with your community over the years. When it does come out, we're going to scream about it. It's going to be in every place. Everyone's going to shout because it's like, look, like when something like builds, it's like it's quite funny that I'm going to use this example, but okay, so the new Spider-Man that came out like a couple of weeks ago.
Oh no, that wasn't on my radar.
No, sorry, it wasn't even a couple of weeks ago. It was literally last year. Why am I lying? So the Spider-Man film that came out last year, I was a massive Spider-Man fan, but I stopped watching it. For like, I just stopped watching it. I was a Tobey Maguire kind of girl, like whatever. Anyway, so the film had come out and there was so much suspense of that film. It literally took 3 years to make or 2 years to make because of all the high-tech equipment and all of that stuff. But when it came out, it literally did absolute numbers because so many people, like I hadn't gone to the cinema to watch a film maybe in like 3 years. Like 2 of them were during COVID, but I just didn't go to cinema. And when I went to the cinema to finally watch that, I was like, oh my goodness, why have I missed that for so long? And I think that's going to be like sort of a similar experience to when you release your when you release your tarot decks. But one thing that I do say, which is kind of interesting as well, is like, it's so right about how like social media or scammers are like flushing out like the spirituality scene and how it's really affected so many different content creators. Like even Pink Cat, like I refused to order the book to the UK because I couldn't deal with the hassle. I literally waited until my friend was in California for me to go get it because I didn't want to deal with it. And then even now, like there's some other there's another person I want to buy a deck from, but they're in Australia. So I'm going to literally wait until I find someone who's going out to Australia so they can get for me. I'm also going to like change my process of content creation. Like I actually started a Patreon today, which hopefully will be
congratulations.
Launched. Thank you so much. I was writing my article and it's like I'm just happy that I'm able to like showcase myself in a different way, but equally it's kind of frustrating because there's something that's like really accessible and freeing with Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or all of these mediums that we use. Why, like, don't get me wrong, I'll make it exclusive because I want my community to actually engage with the stuff. Like sometimes like people could have like, I don't know, like 50k followers and then not have a community that talks about the content that they're in. They might just be there because they appreciate the message. I want to talk to my community. I want to invest with my community. I want to see what I can learn from my community and what they can learn from me. I want a collaborative, horizontal process. And I think that's what I've seen a lot of spiritual content creators change over the past couple of years, because it's like I'm rather go onto Discord to talk to people that's actually interested in my work than talk about interpretations on the comment section of an Instagram post that you don't even like. you know?
Right.
Like,
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's really, it's so mixed in the spiritual community right now. There's so many, like, I love the spiritual community. There are just amazing creators and voices and authors and people sharing their healing and sharing their gifts. And I've met some amazing people through it. But there's also, there's a lot of commodification, and I understand that. Like, we all got to hustle. Like, we're all trapped in the gig economy. So there's a layer there where you have to sell at least a part of what you're doing. But there are people that, there are people and entities that definitely prey on that. So, you got a lot of bots, you got a lot of fake accounts right now, and you got to be careful and protect yourself online to the degree that you can. And, try to educate your audience and make sure that they're not falling for fakes and scams and things like that. So yeah, I've really changed my relationship to social media over the last couple of years, in part to try to, DIY manage attention regulation problems, because I get too hooked on it. I spend way too much time on there if I let myself do it much at all. And in part, I sent my accounts to private, and I really moved a lot of my work to like my newsletters and Patreon and stuff, just to try to get away from the bots and things. And that might not be permanent, but it's just it's where the weather is right now. I'm going to put my umbrella up.
That is honestly such a great, just yeah, that's just great to say here, and great to say, because I do think, like I said, I've been following you since maybe it must have been 2017 or 2018 now, because I'm trying to think about when I first found out your blog post. But I've been following you since then, and I've been able to see your evolution, but I've also been able to see the evolution of other artists and other people that have come up very quickly. I've seen people be shadow banned. I've seen people be have their accounts deleted, and it's really interesting how, especially after COVID as well, there was just an upsurge of how people are going to use their spiritual tools. And it was obviously, the world is the abundant, the universe is abundant, everybody can do what they please, everyone is spiritual, but equally, people are generalizing one message to broadcast to the audiences and broadcast to loads of different people, and that's fine if it's not harmful, but if it's diluting and causing harm, and then you're trying to commodify off that's where I feel uncomfortable, because it's you're taking advantage of people who are sensitive and vulnerable, and it's not fair to them to if they're looking for help, they're looking for hope, and for someone to jump in their DMs being like, oh, I've summoned a message for you, give me this money to do the hope. And it's just no, don't do that. But then equally,
so sketchy.
Because it's happened so many times now, I'm like, guys, if anything, I hear about scammers more than I hear about actual messages.
I know. And it's hard too with the algorithm changes. I just, over the last few years, I've organically lost most of my Instagram following, not with the numbers of people following the account, but just fewer and fewer and fewer people can see the posts and interact and engage. And that's just been every time there's been a little algorithm chunk where all the artists on Instagram panic, oh, we lost a lot of art. It's just progressively hit. So I'm seeing a ton of artists now saying, genuine actual accounts saying that only 1% or fewer of their followers are actually seeing their posts. And I've definitely had that happen. And it's well, you can't really do anything about that. And if it's like that, and then you've got all this, nonsense and scammy stuff on top of it, you do have to kind of rethink, what is the benefit of this platform? So I've turned it more into a personal account, and I'm just using it to keep in touch with friends and people that I want to see on there. But it's complicated. And I think what you just said really touches on that, the kind of toxic positivity things in the spiritual community. There is a lot of that where messages that are easy to say and easy to digest, whether or not they're true, tend to get repeated fastest, farthest, and loudest. And we got to acknowledge that in our crafts and in our communities, that working with spirituality and with spiritual tools like tarot involves confronting things like bypassing and 100%. Toxic positivity, and the truth of people, and how you heal and how you get to be more yourself and more creative and more lovely of a person is messy, and you get to have all the feelings, and you get to be, you know, imperfect. And
Honestly,
yeah.
like I love that you said that, because bypassing, I think that's one thing that I was actually kind of like fearful of ever doing to anyone, because I know how invalidating it could be. Like as a spirit living in a Black woman's body, I hate I'm frustrated, and I hate it when I get invalidated because of situations that are bypassing. And it's like, I will be damned if I ever say that I attracted these experiences to me, nor would I say that to anyone else, because that's not fair. That's not how life goes. We can understand that a matrix is present, but we don't have to invalidate our own experience by suggesting that spirituality can like, how do I say this? That spirituality will put more against it. Don't get me wrong, I do think to a degree, like what you feed will grow. But like when it comes to things like health, race, gender, like all of these conversations, it's just like, guys, I'm gonna have to get you all to be quiet now, because you need to be accommodating to people's sensitivities. You can't just bypass people's lives. And like, it's kind of interesting because I actually started a podcast recently called Twin Flames, and it's talking about, like, I guess the uglier side of spirituality, and how these two individuals encouraged their community to do anything and everything to get their twin flame. And they would get into debt, they would try and break up people in relationships, they would say some like harmful statements to them about gender, and it's just, or sexuality, and it's just like, how do you think that's okay? Like, literally, even like, I thought we were supposed to love thy neighbor. Like, I thought that was our thing, and now everyone's out here like, no, I'm gonna judge you. Like, what? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's so complicated, and it's, you know, it's easy to accidentally be insensitive, and not even mean to, just from being caught up in your own stuff and your own story, and just not knowing what you don't know. So like actively trying to watch out for that kind of thing is so important. And I definitely, I resonate with that so much, as somebody with like chronic illness and invisible disabilities. Like there's so much unspoken and overtly spoken ableism in certain spiritual things, where it's just like, oh man, like people don't even realize, like, because it's just baked into the culture, and you don't examine it until you have cause or reason to, for a lot of folks. So yeah, it's tricky. It's really tricky to get the balance. And I do think part of trying to cultivate and stay in integrity, if you're going to be a practitioner, and especially if you're sharing any part of your practice in public, has to be that kind of vigilance with yourself, and just constantly educating yourself about other people's experiences, and sharing good conversation and things like that.
100%. Because the thing is, with, I think having that open dynamic with yourself leaves you the freedom to learn from your mistakes. I think the problem that we kind of see nowadays is people being wrong and strong, but they're being wrong and strong with spiritual information, which is like unseen, you know. Like, if we're all okay, so if you do tarot at some point of your life, you will be the high priestess, you know, if you're understand, if you want to do well, metaphysical things. And it's like, it's not fair for us to use those spiritual things or those teachings to project our inadequacy of knowing full stories. And this could be with ability, this could be with gender, this could be with so many different isms, as you talk about, because it just shows you how, like, it's like the human aspect of the things that we just don't know, we're like blending in with spirituality, and we're like, no, it's
right. I think such a big part of that too is that, like, that kind of dualist mindset that, like, the physical world and the spiritual world are separate, and you know, you have your spirit stuff over here, and your mind, your physical body, and social and money things over here, and they don't meet in between. Like that kind of thinking doesn't really serve us there. It's like, no, we're spiritual and we're in the physical world, and it's both, and they're enmeshed and they're entangled, and like people can encounter problems things that generate from the human world, that generate from the physical world, that generate just from, just rocks and dirt and, and power structures, literal toxins in the environment. Like not everything that happens to you is necessarily manifested by spirit. Things can be manifested by spirit and by what you think and by what you attract, but it's like a both and. Things can manifest from more than one direction and for more than one reason. And people have a right to decide what things mean for themselves. Exactly. And just, I think having like a little bit of space there to wait to hear how somebody is encoding and storing and finding and making meaning from their own experience before deciding what that means from them. So like if you are interacting with somebody who's got a problem or a situation that's difficult for them and they feel like it really has a logical, physical, human explanation, like honor that. And if you're interacting with somebody who, has something going on that they feel like is coming from a spiritual pattern or from a past life or from, something internal or something emotional, like hold space for that too. So, yeah, it's like a both and.
Definitely. I think it's literally like at the end of the day, just holding space for each other and being comfortable and willing enough to hear each other out, because I'm sure you've seen this in socials, how people like are looking for like aha moment and they're like watching people for their downfall, and it's just like I'm so over it. Like I'm just so cringed out by how the fact that people are waiting for your downfall, or people waiting being consistent, be like, oh, knew that she was bad. I was like, shut up.
just be in your downfall all the time, and then they can't touch you.
Exactly.
Yeah, no shit, I'm in my downfall.
Do you know, it's so funny that you say that, because I literally put it on my Instagram bio like maybe 2-3 years ago, and I haven't changed it since. It's like nobody's posting their failures, and I just want you to remember that every time that you see my Instagram, because it is curated with photos. But besides those photos, you don't see me when I'm crying. You don't see when I'm literally like there on my bed, have like chocolate all over me because I haven't moved in a day. Like you haven't seen me. So please don't put me on this pedestal. Oh, that's actually amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
To be fair, I've got 2 more questions for you.
Sure.
My first question that I want to ask you is related to your blog post. And I think we've sort of gone in and out of it, to be fair, in this segment. But your blog post about does it have to hurt, pain in the creative process? You basically talk about how art today rejects the notion of requiring pain, and that those who suffer more make better and more deeper or sexier work. And I loved how like you sort of mentioned this in your blog post, because it suggests that people use trauma as an opportunity, and not to say it can be an opportunity for people to learn, but it shouldn't be always looked at as a lesson. So I really appreciate this blog post, because you just talked about how rest, positive self-talk, comfort, wonder, curiosity are all, I guess, facets to the creative process. How do you think that can be enhanced?
Oh, that's a wonderful question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me just think for a moment. How to enhance those good things. I think giving yourself space internally for the mess and for things to be mixed is really big. Like just letting, not feeling like you have to put the pressure of being in wonder and positivity all the time, and feeling like it's something that you can go in and out of and do as a practice and have, part-time, and then, also lean on your cynicism or your vigilance or whatever it is that you need when you need it. Recognize the tricky things and the sides of things that we tend to push away as adaptive in themselves. I think that's part of it. Yeah, I really, overall, I really believe in like blending positivity and negativity simultaneously a lot, and as much as possible, and taking a break from one to dip into the other, and going back and forth, and cultivating both as constructive processes. That
Yes.
like the idea that like deconstruction and unmaking and decay are also generative in themselves.
Ooh.
So that's a really big one for me. And it's like in the creative process, like one of the practices that I do that I've done many times over is destroying old diaries. And that's one of those things that like freaks people out if you say that you do it or you're doing it. But like, just ripping apart thoughts that I no longer resonate with or relate to, just, breaking down old books and diaries, and sometimes patching them into something new, or sometimes just completely discarding them, or tossing them in the trash. Things like that, like undoing and unmaking, as a generative thing, I think can really serve that. But yeah, cultivating rest and wonder as a counterbalance is so important too. And for that, one of my favorite things is just to go on a walk and try to notice as much as possible. So
Yes.
I love phone photography. I love that cameras are so democratized now, and that everybody has a camera in their pocket. And sometimes that's one of those things that's people will be grouchy about, like, oh, these millennials and Zoomers on their phones all the time. And the way that I see it is that no, if you're photographing things around you in your environment, you're cultivating presence through that. Like that's just a practice that's been huge for me. Like doing photo walks and using that as a attention focusing thing of like, okay, I want to get a good shot. I want to notice something interesting. I want to see something beautiful. And a way to cultivate presence in space, and a way to cultivate paying attention to like little wonderful soft little things, and finding wonder in the small details around you. Sometimes people think that you have to be in a certain kind of environment or have things a certain way to find wonder or beauty, and it's really more about finding what's beautiful in your environment, wherever you are, wherever you can access. If it's a city, if it's a suburb, if it's your sidewalk, or if it's quality of light that's coming in through your window, things like that. Like really just taking pleasure in little sensory, tactile things, little nature things, cultivating wonder through that. Personally, that I get a lot out of that as a practice, and I would recommend doing that as an exercise to people, even for like 5-10 minutes a day, until it just becomes part of what you do. If it's not part of what you do yet, I can't recommend that enough as a as a kind of art meditation.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's actually, whilst you were talking, it reminded me of this extract of this book. I've got Jessica Dawes' Tarot for Change book with me. She's a tarot reader and a social worker, and she talks about in the iconic book Woman Who Ran with the Wolves, Clarissa Pinkola Estes wrote about the life-death life cycle. Everything that lives dies, when also dies. What dies also lives. We understand the first part, at least intellectually, though it doesn't stop us from suffering in our losses. But the second part we still tend to forget about. What dies lives. To say what dies lives is to say that what dies is reborn in some reconstructed way, brought back. There's a sun on the horizon in the death card, and though it may be tempting to assume it's sunset, you will notice its location in the east. It's rising. And I think
that's beautiful.
Honestly, as you were talking, it just reminded me of that, like being sort of adaptive in your approach to creativity, and knowing that even today, right, I was watching videos about what I should, if I want to develop my podcast, if I want to promote my podcast, if I want to do this, what I should do. And I got lost in all these different videos, whether it was a podcaster, whether it was a makeup tutorial. They were all using the same software, which was Final Cut Pro, but I was able to understand like the process is just as influential and as insightful as if I had all the fancy equipment in the world, because I'm able to sort of take, even though it might take a bit of work, because especially with my ADD brain, but because I have been given the opportunity to have the YouTube on my laptop to then process those things, it's going to give me the skills that I need for the future. Yeah, it might be a bit slow at the start because I don't know what I'm doing, but when I get that practice, I'm going to be able to develop it. And even when you were talking about like, oh, it could be on your sidewalk, it could be in your like room, it could be in your suburb. It just shows you that there's so much available to you that we sort of limit ourselves to say that we don't have, because I mean, instant gratification on socials doesn't help, because it's like, oh, you need this thing to do that, you need that thing to do this. But it's like, no, look around, really, really, really look and reflect. What can you do now that can help you for tomorrow, or help you in the process of getting to your things that you like? So yeah, thank you for that answer. I really, really enjoyed that.
Oh, I'm so glad. And actually that triggers something else for me, is just that I would love to say if we have time. And if you need to cut this, I don't know, we're talking a lot and I'm enjoying this conversation so much. So if you need to like edit things for the final version, that's completely okay. Oh, what was where'd my thought go? Just that art is so democratic and it is for everybody. And I think a lot of people who are starting out, or who have had, the creativity kind of trained out of them from their upbringing or from schooling or whatever, like if there's any question about whether some creative practice is for you, it's for you if you want it to be. And everybody has a learning curve, and you're just not seeing people's learning curves. So wherever you're starting from, like, that's great and that's fine. You have no idea where you can go from where you are. So just start where you are and enjoy it as much as possible, and just let things be messy and student-y and develop. But creativity is for everybody. And if you have a passion, or if you have an obsession, that is an indication of aptitude and talent. It just hasn't blossomed yet. But wherever there's that much interest to throw yourself into something and to show up and try it every day, that is a marker for aptitude and ability that just hasn't grown yet. So feel free to honor that if that vibes with anybody. Do the stuff.
I love that. That was so sweet. I felt like I need, you know what, I'm literally gonna make that into a clip and just listen to it every day. Like I'm gonna get off my text. No, honestly, that was great. I've got one more question to ask you, and then we'll go to the tarot reading. But we've talked about tarot, and I want to ask if there was any card in the deck that is really significant to you as you're growing up or throughout your journey. Maybe it's at the moment. My card that's really significant to me is Seven of Swords. I feel like that card has been played such a role in my development, my personal experience, my deception, my frustration. I think I'm quite an open book. Like, people can see what I'm thinking from my facial expressions, let alone from what I've said. So the idea of Seven of Swords, I had to get comfortable with it, because even though I might not always display Seven of Swords, someone around me might be displaying of Seven of Swords. But then equally, the mind is a very the mind can be a tricky bitch. Like, the mind can be so like, it's like I'm also I can self-sabotage myself in a way that is resonant with the Seven of Swords. But also, it's that eureka moment, it's that epiphany, it's that, oh, I found a loophole, and now I'm gonna not all loopholes are bad, but it's just understanding how we can use our mental intelligence for us instead of against us. So because that card was so significant to me in my, I guess, personal development, I wanted to ask what card was significant to you.
That's brilliant. I've really been feeling the Hermit over the last few years. I'm a little bit of a recluse, very shy by natural wiring, and I have medical boundaries that make it very hard to access in-person community. So I've really I really vibe a lot with the Hermit, and both the gifts and challenges there of finding depth and exploring yourself and exploring your passions through and within blessed seclusion. But it's really hard not to tip into the balance of over isolating or feeling too alone. And one of the things that I associate, one of the phrases that I get and repeat a lot for the reversal of the Hermit is just remind yourself always remember that neither your genius nor your pathos are unique.
Yeah.
That whatever you're going through and whatever you have to offer, there are other people that also can connect and click with that. So going back and forth between retreating and nesting, finding ways to craft space for yourself that is quiet and that is somewhat removed, as a life-giving, health-giving thing, but then also remembering to kind of peek out from that. Like,
amazing.
just interface with other people, remember you're not alone, and remember that you're not the only one with your problems. Don't get too in your own head about that stuff. Yeah.
Oh, well, no, well, thank you so much. I think that was such a beautiful way to end Decoding the Messes. I've learned so much, and I think this conversation really shows you how, like, no experience is just the same, but also there's people having similar experiences. So believe in yourself, but also don't beat yourself up,
Yeah, and don't don't withhold everything you've got, because there's when we share from our honesty and from our weirdness, we're, without even realizing it, we're giving permission to other people who haven't clicked and found what they're looking for to
Definitely.
like come up for air, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
That makes so much.
Okay.
Honestly, I feel like I need to write that down and read it every day when I like wake up. No, honestly, that was absolutely amazing. I really, really enjoyed that conversation. I am just going to go and get a crystal, and then we can go into the tarot message. I was thinking for this week I could just be like, what to expect after the spring equinox. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds great. Let's do it.
Amazing.
I've got a rock. Oh, here's my rock.
Oh, amazing. What rock do you have?
This is one of my favorite rocks. It's a piece of black and orange granite that I found on the beach. It's called Halloween Jack is its name. It's my Halloween rock.
Oh my God, I love that. And you love Halloween. I love that for you.
I love Halloween so much. I love David Bowie. So this is Halloween Jack the rock, and it's my favorite rock. It's how otters have like rocks that they just like do this with, and they have like their favorite rocks. So this is my otter rock.
Oh, I love that. That's so sweet.
What crystals do you have today? What
so
do you got
today
for crystals?
I have, I'm going to make sure that I can, because the thing is, the background is so lovely for like aesthetic, but practically it's terrible. Like today I have fluorite octagon.
Ooh.
So this one helps to clear communication, clear brain fog, so you can translate the message easier. I've got snowflake obsidian, and this is just removing any frustrations, any psychological wounding, any like mental like like just in the head, so you can just be, you can ground yourself. And then I thought I'd bring some citron, some orange citrine, just because it's spring, we want to uplift, we want to lighten, and I just thought I'd bring these crystals with me whilst I get a reading.
Beautiful. So, I love citrine so much.
It's such a lovely crystal.
So good. Yeah, it's really good for creativity.
Amazing.
I have it here and there in studio space.
Amazing. No, I love that. I am just shuffling the cards, so breathe in and out for me. Okay. So we're in Tarot Talks, and for this week's tarot message, I thought I would ask for some cards to show what's in store for us for the spring equinox. We're in Aries season, and I'm really excited to be here because I do feel like a change of energy has definitely uplifted me. Like even the fact that there's sun, like I'm like, whoa, I can feel the seasonal affective depression get out of my body, so like I'm really grateful. So Crocuses. If you like to honestly, if you like to breathe in and out with me, and then you just tell me when to stop.
All right. How about now?
Amazing. Okay, I'm going to take that. Oh, okay. Right. Okay, Spirit, what up? Okay. Is that the next one? Oh, okay. So I'm getting... So there's two ways that I'm reading this message. but it's under the guise of death, the transformation card, which is kind of interesting because I literally just read that card out and I didn't even mean to. Like, it literally, you know, that interpretation of Jessica Dore, that was from the death card. So
oh yeah, that was
I think
great.
definitely there's grieving going on. There's grieving that needs to be looked to, because basically we're getting like two pathways, two timelines, right? So we got the Death card, we got the Ace of Cups, and then we got the Ten of Cups, and then the Page of Cups, right? And at first I thought it was the Ten of Cups, sorry, that was wrong. We've got the Death card, the Ace of Cups, the Ten of Swords, and the Page of Cups, right? At first, I thought it was a mixture of energies, and it could possibly be, but now I'm thinking it's like two timelines. And I think death has come up because it shows us, what are we grieving? Are we processing our grief? Are we being comfortable in that grief? Or are we not letting things die? And the reason why I say this is that in the recent interpretation that I just read out, we were talking about what lives. To say what dies lives is to say that what dies is reborn in some way, resurrected, brought back. There is a sun on the horizon of the death guard, and though it may be tempting to assume it's sunset, you can notice its location in the east. It's rising. Joseph Campbell said the mythic's hero journey contained three distinct phases: departure, initiation, and return. The departure stage begins with a hero who is not yet a hero receiving a call to adventure. This could be a hero often refuses the call at first, not at all unlike the denial that happens in the pre-contemplation stage of change. But when they do decide to heed their summoning, they're often met by a benevolent, supportive side who nudges them along and offers some charm for the road. An object with magical powers, an incarnation, protective talisman. After departure comes the initiation stage, which has to do with the mystery of death and tarot. It is during that stage that a hero often enters a seemingly inescapable situation, or Campbell calls this phrase the belly of the whale. So I've mentioned this to say that death is a fluid experience. Death can be processing your experiences that you have to grieve for. It can also talk about understanding things that have to end, and choosing to put your best heart, your best interest, and your best belief first. I believe that's one of the downloads I'm getting, because the next card that I got was the Ace of Cups, and the Ace of Cups is a potential for love, whether that's within yourself, whether that's in a partnership, whether it's a relationship, whether it's in a new project or creative ideal. I think even the Ace of Cups could link into your imagination and your spirituality. It's to understand that you are, well, your cup runneth over, right? You are the portal of all things creation. You are with the source as well as the sources within you. So if you choose to put your intention by your heart's desires, you're going to be able to nourish and feed your spirit with new interests, and the more you feed it, the more it will grow. Like, love is something that the more you pour into love, the more it expands. Love doesn't run on scarcity, and if you believe that runs in scarcity, then that means that you have a limited, not even limited actually, you have a restricted perception of love, and that's not love. Like, it might be love that's settling, it might be love that's like conditional, but the love that you should have for yourself should be shameless, and it should be unconditional, because at the end of the day, you're going to live in your body for this whole life. So why can't you make it an enjoyable experience? And the reason why love is so important, especially in the spread, is that love is the portal to create all things. I can't remember what the words are exactly, but it was saying how, like, for things to create, whether it's like a project, whether it's like a relationship, whether it's through your mind, whether it's through a job, whether it's through anything, it has to go through your heart first. you know, and it having that understanding and having that confidence and that self-trust to believe that you can bring the things that you desire. Like, I know that some people might be listening haven't had the best experiences in love, so they are like either settling for crumbs or they're too scared to like shout out what their wants are. But it's not to fear you, but it's all to like encourage your curiosity, because the next two cards are the Ten of Swords and the Page of Cups. Together, I read it as this energy, the cycle's over. You need to give to your younger self, but I also read it as two different pathways. It's like the Ten of Swords of being resurrected in that cycle of deflation, of why me, of oh, this is unfortunate, things always happen to me. Like, there's like 10 swords in my back, but this experience has pushed one of the swords in me a bit more, so now I'm blaming the situation instead of the fact that I'm actually hurting and I need to do something with that hurt, more so than blaming the situation for triggering that hurt, you know? But because it's next to the Page of Cups, who's literally one of the most expansive potentials of love in the whole entire tarot deck, it makes me think that this fluid, youthful approach to love and to creativity and to curiosity can actually save you. It could be as simple as something as dressing up cute and like just feeling yourself in all your glory, but also it could encourage you to like investigate what you enjoy again. Like, go, if there's things that you're calling to, try them, just simply try them and see what works. I just want to pick out one more card and then, okay, so Spirit, Higher Power, what is, can I have a clarifier? 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 Can I have?
This is very resonant so far.
Oh, really?
This
so
is great, yeah.
Two clarifiers jumped out, but okay, I'm just going to read the book quickly. So we've got Six of Swords, and this indicates that we've recently been through a difficult time. There's been setbacks that have been demoralizing, but we shouldn't let them derail us completely, because like the situation is salvageable, you know? And then we also got what? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Yeah, we got Four of Cups. There's a decision to be made. The Four of Cups tarot card is a reminder your options is a reminder to consider your options carefully. Remember, you don't have to accept everything you're offered. Listen to your intuition. Don't be afraid to decline opportunities that don't feel right for you. So one thing that I love about this deck as well, are you like, have you seen the Disney Villains deck?
Oh, I've heard of it, but I haven't looked at it or worked with it. That's adorable.
Can I move it? It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yes.
Like, oh, sorry, you know, I'll take pictures, I'll send it to you. Like, I'm gonna have to really rethink about this background situation, because this is the third time I've tried to show people this. But yeah, like, I think it clarifies the message. I think the Four of Cups, and the Four of Cups is foundation, isn't it? And the Six of Swords is talking about your direction or your intention. I remember in the Rider-Waite deck, it's like leaving turbulent waters behind for calmer seas. And
passage.
The confidence of the individual with the black staff, like we see that staff going into the water, it's literally directing them. It's going to be the sole authority to moving them into what they see fit. And even if it wasn't great what they're moving into, they're fine, because they're good. They know themselves, they know their intuition. And it's like, if you made that decision, you need to be comfortable with it and just trust yourself enough to keep moving forward. I think, yeah, even at the bottom of the deck, we have Seven of Wands. There's a lot of spiritual interference, energetic interference that is around at the moment. And one of my friends had the best analogy. She said, you're protected. Well, she didn't say it to me, but she said it to her friend. She said, you're protected and you're walking through a glass tunnel, right? Or glass tunnel. But the thing is, the glass, you can see everything outside. You can see all the chaos outside. So that's what's influencing your perception. You need to understand you're protective and walk with your intuition and walk with your heart's desires, because that is your destiny. That's your purpose. And that's what's going to give you that nourished feeling of feeling like your cup is full, you know, that Ace of Cups. I'd like to finish with an oracle card message. So Spirit, all these cards are now falling out. Whoa.
Jumpers.
Yes,
you know they mean business when they jump out of the deck.
Honestly, like another one just jumped out. You've overcome so much to be here. Don't give up. That's the first one. What's the next? Okay, 43. Is this something that you want, or is it something that you've been told you want? So yeah, there's definitely like the collective are making choices about are they going to settle or are they going to expand? And I don't mean it in like a restrictive sense, but as in like, are you actually going to go for the things you truly, truly want, or are you settling for the options that are provided for you? And this is even a message to me, because like sometimes I'll get an offer and I'm like, oh, I'll do it now because it's here, and like I will do it because I'm just bored. I mean, I want intention, but then equally, if I listen to my spirit guides who are screaming at me, who like, you need to help your collective, you need to do this, you need to do that, as in like more not private but more exclusive spiritual work, as in Patreon, newsletters, all of that stuff, I wouldn't be bored. I would be just doing what they're doing. So I think this message is definitely saying, look, whatever you need to grieve can be grieved in process of you going through desires. Like, bet on yourself. Like, trust that you are pouring back into yourself when you look after your wants, look after your desires, and not be so influenced by what's around you just because it might seem good at first. But yeah, that's the tarot reading. How do you feel?
That's beautiful. That's so good. A couple of the phrases that you say, I think, are really going to stick with me. That death is fluid. Death is a fluid thing. I love. And grieving in process. There was a lot in there that was very resonant.
Well, we've got it all recorded, so it's something that you can come back to.
I definitely will. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. I honestly, like, it still baffles me that have on my podcast someone who was such an influential part in my tarot journey. Like, if you saw the way that I was moving around your PDFs, you thought I'd be obsessed, because I literally I think every tarot reader gets to that point where they become like proper like hermit / high priestess, where they're like, everything is connected, and like, and I'll just have mind maps of different things connecting, and my housemates would come into me like, are you okay? I was like, I've just had a message. So I'm really appreciative.
Totally been there. Like when you get like tunnel vision and you're staring at stuff and like charting out ideas, and you look a little, you're like wide-eyed. Great.
You literally look like you know the scientist in Back to the Future.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit. But no, honestly, that was a really resonant message. I hope that people, as you move through your as you move through Aries season, as you move through spring, you just learn how to trust yourself and you learn how to be more comfortable with yourself, because I think that's how you're going to just get through this thing we called life, you know?
Yeah. Mood.
I know.
Mood and a half.
But that that takes us to our last our last segment. And the last segment is the direct message, and that's where you leave listeners with a take-home message. So what would you like to leave listeners with this week?
Excellent. Let me grab my notes here, because I had an idea and I want to make sure I remember it.
Yeah, sure. No, please go ahead.
Yeah, and great. Oh, it's something that we like touched on off and on, which I'm so excited. But yeah, I love the idea of treating your life as an art project. Like treating your own self and your own life as an art project is one of my favorite kind of notions. But when we throw that phrase around, sometimes we get a picture in mind that it doesn't really look like the reality of that. So I want to remind people that art is messy, that art is chaotic, that it's 95% process that you don't see. So do treat your own life as an art project if you feel called to do that. But remember that that's not going to mean that it looks pretty every day. It's not going to mean that it's presentable or palatable or or tidy or organized every day, and that it doesn't have to be shared with everybody every day. So becoming art in yourself doesn't mean becoming or appearing artificial, and it doesn't mean becoming or appearing perfect. And yeah, that was what I wanted to say.
I absolutely love that. That was such a great direct message. Like, just embrace the chaos, really. You know?
Yeah.
And I love what you said about art
Paint
not being
spatters
artificial.
everywhere.
That was great wordplay.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I don't know how to follow. I guess for the direct message this week, I just want the collective to follow their heart. I just want, like, the sun's out, spring has sprung, you know, like, be gentle with yourself as the sun kisses your skin. Like, I've definitely seen a mood change in me since having well, it was my birthday. It was actually my birthday.
Happy birthday!
Day. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. I went go-karting, and I went to the arcade, and I honestly had so much fun because I was just giving. I knew what I wanted to do, and I did it. And then after that, I was just gassed. I was so happy because I was just like,
that is such an Aries birthday.
Honestly, yeah. It's so funny because one of my friends saw me and they said the same thing, because that's the thing. I hadn't been in a car for so long, so when I was in this car, I was like trying to get through like all these different like lanes and stuff, and it was so funny because the go-karting place was on 3 levels, so it genuinely felt like Mario Kart.
Oh my gosh,
I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
That's hilarious. I love it.
Honestly, and I think like even in this message, I see like transgression. I see like going through the grief, seeing what you like and feeling the discomfort but doing it anyway. And like I don't think it's strange how like the sun can appear and it can just make our problems feel a little bit lighter. Like they're still there, but it's not the main focus of our frustration. And like in winter we can ruminate in it for so long. So like I want people to take advantage of the sun, like maybe go outside, do a trip, go visit, do some exploration, and just like appreciate appreciate the adventure. Just follow your heart, do what you want to do, and bring yourself to an adventure, because I just feel like I don't even know what to say. I just feel like spring has really reminded me, and we've only been in spring for literally like 3 or 4 days.
Right.
It's like I'm just even shocked even when I'm talking. Like I feel like I'm starting a sentence and stopping a sentence, because it's just like I feel so much lighter since spring has started. I feel like the energy change has been able to make me a bit more motivated. Don't get me wrong, my problems are still here, like, but I don't deep it as much, and I hope everyone can take that on their chin and embrace the adventure and embrace the discomfort, because there's going to be progress. Like I even think last week's message was even when you're bad, it does still mean that you're still moving, you know. So like just be easy on yourself, DM Talk family. Follow your heart and follow the adventure. That's my direct message.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love it. Yes, spring vibes.
Honestly.
Yeah. I love when the land wakes back up.
Honestly, it just makes you like, I've gone back into gardening again. I looked after all my plants yesterday. I brought a brand new peace lily, and that's absolutely gorgeous. It's thriving.
Beautiful.
And yeah, I just think that like, oh my goodness, sorry, I'm just looking away. I put plant food in my yucca yesterday and it's already thriving. Like all the leaves have changed.
Oh, that's
See,
amazing.
look, spring. Look at spring. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. But no, thank you. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you today.
Oh, likewise. This has been just an absolute joy. Thank you so much for having me.
Honestly,
really.
I've enjoyed it so much. I've enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, me
please,
too.
could you leave the listeners with your socials so that they can find you? But I'll also put it on the show notes.
Yeah, so the best place to find me these days is just through my website, which is evvieMarin.com. So EVVIEMARIN.com. It links to everything else. I've got some free newsletters that you can sign up for and follow, and interrobangtarot.com is the tarot blog. So there's just a ton of articles on there that are already written. Most of the new articles are happening on Patreon, but you can find the links to Patreon through both of those sites. You can sign up for the free newsletters if you'd like. My Instagram accounts are private now. I'm not really Instagramming much lately, but it's at Evvie Marin and at Interrobang Tarot if you're already following. I don't know why I even said that. What else? Oh, can I give a plug for an upcoming event?
Yes, please do.
I will be teaching creative spreadcraft at the Witch City Tarot Gathering in Salem, Massachusetts this summer. Amazing. So late July. If you're in New England, if you're in the Salem area, it's going to be a lovely event. It's a really nice tarot community, just beautiful, lovely people in a beautiful town. Summer is the best time to visit Salem. Don't fuck with it in the fall. It's a nightmare around Halloween, but it's beautiful in the summer. So if you're free and you're in the area, come on down for that. And I'm trying to think of anything else, but really the websites, Patreon, and newsletters are the best places to keep up with the work for now, because my Instagram is a sleepy gulch at the moment.
So I post I posted on my birthday, but I think 2 posts before that, the last time I posted was May. Last year. It's just it's just empty. It's a dry wasteland. But no, thank you. I'll put all of your information in the show notes, because awesome. There's so many people that I'm sure after listening to our conversation will want to check out these PDFs and will want to check out your newsletters, because I think you're an amazing writer. That's one thing that I definitely love about your work, because I think you actually teach me a lot of new words, but also the information is super digestible. So it's I know what you're meaning by expression, but then when I search it, I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. I get really excited.
I'm such a word freak. I love
vocabulary.
I love it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's teaching me, and I'm sure it's teaching so many others. And I love how it's like storytelling, isn't it? You painting a picture.
Yeah.
So I really, really appreciate that. So another shout out to you and your work. I've had such a lovely podcast. I've really, really enjoyed it.
This has just been a blast. This is great.
It's honestly been great. I'm going to be smiling from here to here now. But I'm trying to think. Is there anything that I have to say? I'm having a live show, but this might come out the weekend after the live show. So hopefully you guys have got your tickets before then. It will be in Manchester. The tickets are £2. It's at 53 2 Studios for Save Me a Seat, for the global majority. I'm really, really excited, because it's my first live show, and it'll be this weekend of the 2nd year birthday of the podcast.
Oh my gosh, congrats. That's so exciting. That's really rad.
I've been manifesting it for a while, so I'm just really excited that it's all comes to fruition. But
sell out.
Yeah, honestly, that's what I'm hoping.
Sparkles for no tickets left. Yeah.
Exactly. Is there anything new? So I've made a Patreon account. Hopefully it will be live by this episode, and if so, you can check out there. I'm gonna just help the collective train their intuition. I've got 2 tiers at the moment, but I'm just going to practice with that, try and be consistent, and if it grows, it grows. But a lot of my insights, my tarot readings, my pick-a-piles, my sort of collective messages, even some podcasting content will be up there. So please support the team, because it will just be nice to have be engaged with community a little bit more, you know. You can also booking a tarot reading with me at my website, which is www.dm.Seerah.com. But that's all. You can follow the podcast at dm.talks. And that's really it. I've had an absolute pleasure, but I'm gonna love you and leave you.
Sure.
Check out next week, DM Talk listeners, for another episode. But for now, we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye. Take care.